Good morning, everyone. If we can take our seats so we can get started. Thank you. We can have the roll, please. Should have done it.
Ferry.
Here.
Brooks. Frizzalone. Harris.
Here.
Markham.
Here.
Moran. Mustis. Ocala. Summers. Trainier. And Winfrey. You have a quorum.
Thank you. So Cook, will you lead us in the pledge, please? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have minutes from the budget workshop of March 8th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. No old business, starting with the new business. The annual audit plan, is that still on? I thought Duffy. Oh, yeah, there he is. Oh, yeah, okay, we do have to do it.
Yeah, they'll all just come around
Quick,
me.
Duffy, let's not drag this.
Tim, you want to come down here? Hi, good morning, everyone. Hopefully I can set a tone of to the point and brief. So with your attachment today, thank you for the opportunity to present the annual audit report from 2018. And then also included in that is the internal audit plan for 2019 to come. If you look at the table of contents, it gives the auditor's office mission, and then it goes through an executive summary. You can read that. Then it has a long list of audits that we do. You can take a look at that. It's long in nature. Each year that we present this, we like to go through just the significant audits that were performed and then key risk areas. But to be more brief, I'll just name them together. Cash is always and remains a key risk area. So we audit each individual cash account. We look at the treasurer's accounts, and more specifically, we look at the accounts that are held separately outside the Treasury Department. So the Treasury team under the treasurer looks at cash, but then there's also what we can label as campus accounts that are held by different departments as they're holding their own checkbooks. So that's always remains. Fixed assets was another key area of audit this year. So with the participation of the finance department, Karen and her staff, we assembled a list of inventory of all fixed asset items. These have to do with not only just roads and squad cars, but it goes down to infrastructure items as well. Went all the way to look at each individual building, infrastructure item, structure. We don't actually do coring to see how deep the flexible pavement is, but we are looking at that. We do have a new ERP that's going to be installed, a new finance system that's going to be installed. That is a new key risk area that my audit team has been part of the steering committee for a new finance system. Also, IT and information systems auditing is a key risk area. It's not exactly a new area, unless you say the 1980s or 1990s is new. But we are looking at that. The office hired a IT auditor, who is Tim Costigan. We have gone through a process of auditing, putting together an audit to eventually have a mature and optimized audit and control environment for our IT systems. We also have given a cybersecurity training and IT control awareness program, and we've presented that to over 600 employees of the county. So that was sort of the beginning in the process of us beginning a sort of a maturity model for IT controls, which is a very important and timely thing. since the 80s, right? So in the next month, you'll be visited, I'm not sure what the schedule is, but you'll be visited by us to give a cybersecurity awareness training that has been going out to the departments. We have, then for the other goals, in the past several years, the Auditor's Office began in the months of July, August, and September our recommended and necessary updates to policy. So we're going to continue to do that. So expect us about that time to keep our policies evergreen and fresh. The anti-fraud program, we've talked with the Executive's Office, and we would like to start beginning an anti-fraud awareness program that would be delivered to new employees as they come in through their new employee orientation. Unfortunately, fraud is government, as far as a sector, public sector is actually only second to financial and banking for fraud. So we should probably pay attention to that. As far as the catalog of county policies that we're going to look to, we've written a draft of a IT security and IT control policy that we've discussed with the ICT director, Mike Shea, and you'll see that coming in late summer.
Okay, thank you. Any quick questions for Duffy? No? Thank you.
I see smiles. This is great. Auditors don't get a lot of smiles, so thank you. Have a great morning.
Thank you, Duffy. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have a Resolution 1937 for the Elguero Supermarket. You'll remember that it came before us before. We needed some cleanup work on the paperwork in the background in terms of names and things like that, so it is going forward. Just the state's attorney has done the necessary cleanup to that, so we need a motion for that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then next we have authorizing the county executive to execute a contract with Strand and Associates for a solar feasibility study. Dave?
Madam Chair, we would respectfully request that we bring this up at the April. We're not quite there yet with the consultant in terms of finalizing the contract, and we'd like to postpone board consideration until April.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Tack. So I need a motion to table? Motion. All in favor? Aye. Question, Mike?
Well, what are we tabling? They're just going to start the negotiation. There's nothing to vote on here for the contract. We're telling you to start the negotiation.
No, this was to execute.
This was to authorize to execute. So we are saying,
Execute the contract? No, I thought it was executing the negotiation.
other questions? Jim?
Does that mean that you have a negotiated agreement?
I'm sorry, what was?
We're very close on completing the negotiations. We don't want to rush it in the final, just for the sake of making the meeting deadline. We'd rather be absolutely sure that all of the details and the reviews that need to happen of the document are done before we bring it to this body.
But you're asking for permission to execute, which here again is pushing it a little bit. We usually look
No, I want to postpone. I'm asking to postpone that motion. I'm sorry.
It's not ready.
It's not,
Table, I guess, would be
okay, it's not ready. Okay, I get it.
till April. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions? I think we did already have the vote, right?
Did you have a motion?
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Authorizing the county executive to execute a contract with CDM Smith for the Transportation Master Plan. And I see we have Ann Schneider with us this morning. Good morning, Ann. Nick, are you taking that one?
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Nick, it's on.
sorry, my bad. This one wasn't going on. Good morning, everyone. I just want to give you an update and quick summary of this. This is the study, the Joliet Intermodal Master Transportation Study. It's kind of the next step in our freight work. all of you know, we did the big study a few years back. That was largely funded by IDOT and some of our other partners. This is a funded grant through IDOT. The targeted amount is $200,000 ultimately. It's going to be phased in over 2 years. The county's commitment thus far, which we've already made, is $25,000 match. City of Joliet is doing a $25,000 match. We went through a bid process. We selected CDM Smith as our first choice. We've been going back and forth, and we still have a little bit of work to do, but, and I'm going to have Ann talk about the specifics, but what we're asking this committee to give us a little bit of flexibility is to continue working. We have the scope pretty much hammered out, and Ann's going to talk to that, but the contract, we're still getting all the T's crossed and the I's dotted, and we believe we can have that for next week. The challenge has been there's other work beyond $250,000 that we would like to do that we believe is meaningful. We've been meeting with CED, the Governmental League, Jeff Ronaldson, and others, county board staff, myself. We believe we can secure some additional dollars either from the private sector or possibly from IDOT to do the additional work. So we're writing that in as if funds are available, we can do that. So that gives us some flexibility on that. And Ann maybe can speak to a little bit of that. But at this point, the county's locked-in commitment is just the $25,000 already. We may come back for some of the traffic count. And I don't know if that requires board action, but we will, through the DOT, to do some traffic counts, and we can talk about that too. But if I could, I'd let Ann give you a little bit of the scope and then answer questions. But
Question, Jim?
Yeah, Nick, I just wanted to ask about the original scope of work. I assume that was discussed during the interviewing process.
Well,
I guess what I'm asking is this going to go beyond the scope of work that was initially?
Well, we had a scope
the-
of work, but it was an RFQ, so we were
Right.
qualifying firms.
Correct.
It wasn't an RFP where they were bidding on an absolute
So
specifics.
there was no scope of work. They were
I mean,
just
there was
qualifying.
a general idea of what we were doing, but I know what you're asking, and we're not, I don't believe, and Ann, maybe you could speak to this too, I don't believe we're scope creeping. It's just we looked at qualified firms, and this was the firm that we believed was the best qualified. There was a very strong second too, but this is the same firm that did our bigger study, and but it was qualifying the firm, but also looking at what we needed to get done as per the grant. So I think there was a scope in the grant that we believe.
Well, I
that
guess
this is-
that's what I'm asking.
That's really, I guess, the answer is, the scope of the grant, this is still in line with that, I would argue, so.
Okay,
So.
so you're not going beyond the scope of the grant?
No.
No.
Got it. Okay, that's, I guess, my
So
question.
if, just for the benefit of the board, I think if Ann could walk through kind of a high level on the scope, and we will distribute that to you with the county board agenda. The contract may still be coming, but the contract is really pointing to the scope. So hopefully that gives board members some comfort that the scope is what it is. So, and like I say, the financial commitment at this moment is the $25,000, but we, as one of the possibilities, we may ask DOT to help with some of this traffic count work, which maybe Ann can touch on, so I'll let you.
And one of the ways you might look at that is what we're doing with the scope is fine-tuning exactly what we want in that, within that same umbrella, but making a finer definition of what that should look like. Ann?
Oops, oh, I am on, okay. Yeah, so the scope of work is consistent, or was actually included in the RFQ and is consistent with what was in the grant application. And the main thrust of the scope is having the firm come on and look at the intermodal area, the study areas around the intermodal area. And the idea was to take a look at all of the transportation improvements that are currently programmed for that area, and then to do some on-ground work to figure out, based on what's happening now with traffic and development in that area, what infrastructure improvements would be required to address some of the safety issues, some of the congestion issues around that area. And so the scope of work that we have, it builds on that by completing a travel demand model for that study area. The travel demand modeling will really drive down to the detail at an intersection level, what's happening there. That'll allow us to, through the work that they're going to be doing, allow them to review those projects that are currently in the TIP, identify any gaps where projects aren't in the TIP that might need to be in the Transportation Improvement Program, or projects that are in the Transportation Improvement Program that really will not have an impact that maybe we can put on the back burner or even eliminate off of the program. Then the next step that they will be completing is using the work that was done in the Community-Friendly Freight Mobility Plan, using that scoring matrix. They're going to score the projects. We'll come out with a ranked list of projects that need to be done. And then they're also going to be looking at things that will make those projects stronger to compete for other grant opportunities for construction. And with that, then we'll get the final report.
Questions? Okay. Motion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, the next is an IGA with Plainfield for the Route 30 TIF. Yeah, that is.
Sorry, I got to do this one too. Sorry. We have two items. This one and the next one are both related to TIFs. This, I don't believe there's anyone here from Plainfield, but this is for their Route 30 TIF. This is an IGA. The TIF is already in place. What this IGA is doing basically is allowing some of the excess money from the TIF to come back to us as a taxing body. And there is a detailed study that they had done on this corridor. But if you're familiar with the 55 and Route 30, this is basically going from 55 into Plainfield. They're trying to clean up that corridor, make it a little more attractive, because that's kind of their front entrance into Plainfield from the highway. There's a former truck stop there that they've been trying to redevelop for some time. But this basically, IGA allows them to send us money. Without the IGA, they can't send us any of the excess money from the TIF, because they're not planning to spend all of it on the redevelopment. So we will get some tax dollars, not the full amount. We're usually in a TIF, you don't get any tax dollars during the time of the TIF, and you get the benefit after the development occurs, which we'll talk about in the next one. But this is kind of hopefully a non-controversial thing. It is going to be positive for that development along that corridor, and I'll take any questions, I guess.
Okay, Jackie?
I'll second it,
Hold on,
but I just
Jackie.
have a question.
Hold on, Jackie. We've got the motion. Is there a second? Second.
I
Okay,
just
then the
seconded.
question?
I made a motion.
He motioned, I seconded. I just wanted to ask a question. I go through that area at least once a week, and I have noticed they've put up a number of new trees that look very, very nice. You could definitely see that they're trying to make progress, and it is an eyesore that they're dealing with there with that old truck stop. This money that comes back to us, what do we do with that? What is our
I believe it just goes into the general fund.
So,
I mean, it's tax dollars that would have been collected just generally, but instead of, when you institute a TIF, the money's going to help support the redevelopment in the TIF.
right, so basically
So
they're
it just would be
done?
prorated tax, I mean, it's a smaller portion of what we would have received without the TIF. So it just comes into the county as revenue.
Right, it comes back to the county.
We don't
So-
put it in a special fund or
Right.
anything like that.
No, that part's fine, but I guess what I'm trying to get to here is, are they done with whatever they're going to do that they got the TIF money
No.
for? And that's why we're getting some of the money back?
No, this is actually the ongoing TIF, and they're
Okay.
continuing the work, because it's, as you can see, it still needs a lot of work along there. I mean, that.
Yeah,
there's
it
been-
does. That's
there's
why
been-
I'm
there's
wondering
been-
why we're getting money back.
Because they've done this detailed study, and I believe they're thinking, and I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but what I understood was they don't need the full TIF amount to do what they're going to do, that they can do it for less than the full.
Thank you.
Other TIFs, they take all the money, you get nothing during the time of the TIF, but you get the benefit when it's done. There's hopefully upward movement of that.
That was the answer I was looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And then the next one is the, excuse me, Romeoville's request for an extension of their downtown TIF.
This too is kind of under the economic development umbrella. Steve Goulden's here, he's the village manager for Romeoville, if there's questions that are specific, but high level, this TIF was established in 2005, it's set to expire January 9th, 2028. They believe due to the depression during the 2007 to 12 years, they lost some of the opportunities, and they've seen nearly $20 million of investment thus far in it, so it's working. They're looking, again, into the vein of surplus. They're asking for an extension so that they can extend the life of the term of this TIF. They can't do that by themselves. They can't do it by our action. They do have to come to the taxing bodies, and we're one of the last of two that needs to either say we support it or we're just not opposed to it. So if you don't have to say you support it, you're just not opposed to it, because then Village of Romeoville goes to the General Assembly, who has to actually take action. So there's a time element here. If we say we're not opposed, or even stronger, we're supportive of it, they go to the General Assembly, they extend the life of this TIF, and they can continue to do further improvements and development. I did just get a map, so I had the board staff attach it to your agendas. It's primarily on the east side of 53, but there is some on the west side of 53, but it's really around the Normantown to 135th corridor there. And just as an example, different TIF, but it's rolling off in 2023, the Marquette TIF, which is just north of there, that will roll off and we'll get the full benefit of the improvements there. So same idea, collect money, instead of sending it to the taxing bodies, they use it for improvements, and then at the end, hopefully, you've seen a lot of economic development and increased EAV, which benefits all the taxing bodies. So,
Okay.
if
Need a
Steve's
motion?
here if you have any questions.
Oh, sorry. Motion? 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 Thank you. So, question, Judy?
Wondering if, since it's not set to expire until 2028, why do we need to extend it now?
I can answer that, but I think I'll let Steve. Here, I'll let him in.
If you would come right here. Here.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing this, for this consideration. Your answer is we have to make some long-term decisions on how we're going to redevelop that area, either through some bonding or through borrowing dollars. And so we need to make sure we have a long-term financial income from that TIF. That's why we're asking for the extension now. If anybody's been in that area, I was talking to Board Member Trenier, who's from that area. There was an old Jewel there, the old Osco. There's an Ace Hardware. It was run down, dilapidated. We put the TIF there. We tore those buildings down. We acquired the properties. Now there's that beautiful athletic and event center there that's extremely successful. You see 2 outlots that developed commercially. You saw McDonald's build across the street, Checkers. But for the TIF and but for that economic development, those things would not have happened. And so we're trying to make some long-term decisions to keep that momentum moving, and we need to have that revenue stream. That's why we're asking for the TIF extension now. Great question, though.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Jackie?
Yeah, I just was looking at the map, and I couldn't understand. I see the TIF district, that's in blue, but what's with the red dots around the other parcels? And then, I may have misunderstood, Nick referred to the TIF area just above as the Marquette TIF area, but I thought you said Independence.
There's 3 TIFs in that area. There's a Marquette TIF that Nick referred to along 53 where the Ace Hardware is, and across the street is what we call the Independence TIF. And then the downtown TIF is adjacent to both. I believe they're adjacent to the Independence and they're adjacent to the Marquette TIF. And we do that strategically because you can import dollars from one TIF to another. Because they consider it as a regional economic, yes, so that's why we do that.
Okay. What are the red dots?
I don't have that map in front of me. It could be just boundary line. Yeah, that's just boundary line. That's our, so the red dots means it's not incorporated in Romeoville, so anything within those red dots.
Oh, that's the unincorporated.
That's unincorporated areas.
Sure enough, yes, and I know that. Okay, thank you.
That's all right.
I do know that. I know that neighborhood.
Are there other questions? Nick?
Just a comment. This is kind of an administrative function, but if, with the permission of the committee, if we're going to do a resolution on this so that it formally directs or authorizes the county executive to do the letter. But if it, with the permission of the committee, we would like to go ahead and sign the letter and send it off, because I know there's some sensitivity of deadlines with the General Assembly, and doesn't seem like there's a lot of controversy on this. So with the expectation that the board's going to approve this next week, can we go ahead and send the letter with action today? And as I said before, this is just a letter of support or non-opposition. The General Assembly still has to take action, so if something were to change, there's still time to voice concerns, but it doesn't seem like there's any major concerns here, so.
Okay. I have no issue with that. Are there other comments or any issues with that?
Once we vote on it today, then
We would like to do the letter.
We will go ahead with the
And
letter.
then still do a formal resolution at county board next week, but this just allows Romeoville to move forward with the General Assembly members because there's deadlines looming for
then we vote on the resolution
next week. That just
Right.
kind of confirms that we're doing these letters.
I just wanted to say I support a letter. I think that's a good idea, an additional letter. Excuse me.
Thank you. Okay. You have another question, Judy?
Yeah, I just have one more question.
Yes.
There were two taxing bodies that hadn't approved. What's the other one that had?
DuPage Township?
Oh, DuPage Township. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
and they're not opposed to it. They have some turmoil and some, and some restructuring there. We just have to get to the right person to do it. I believe they're considering it at their board meeting next week or the week after. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Do we need a motion? We have a motion in a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. We
Appreciate it.
will be
Thank you.
sending the letter. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Number 7, we're setting the number of sheriff's sworn personnel. You'll remember they had a SHAP grant, and we're going to use that money to provide for this. Is there a motion for that? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, the next is the Will County Capital Fund expenditures and minimum balance threshold. That was the policy to allow us to have a minimum on hand to do repairs, upgrades to equipment. We may at any time have more in that fund, but we will keep a minimum balance so that we don't have to run out and do emergency things and grab money out of other funds in order to do that. So. Second. Any opposed? Question? Jackie?
I see it's 500,000. Do we have any there now? Am I seeing 5?
Yes.
How much do we have?
Right now, there's about 1.2 million.
That's not it. Oh, that's more, so I can go shopping?
No, you may not.
Well, yeah, with the next 4 resolutions.
Yes.
Following this, but this is just establishing the minimum balance.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, so we already moved that money into this fund? 'Cause-
No, we have the cash within this fund, we just do not have the appropriation. So following this will be the appropriations necessary.
Well, yeah, those are appropriations from expenditures. I thought this was a subset of 315. We have capital placements. I thought this is emergency
Well,
capital.
this is establishing that we will at all times keep a minimum balance of $500,000 in case a boiler blows or something happens, we'll always have
At least that much
$500,000
on hand.
Understand.
We'll identify projects along the way, but we'll always keep a minimum balance for that if those emergencies.
Yeah, that I understand. I think, well, it's just confusing me because some of these things are saying capital 315 expenditure minimum balance and capital, then it's saying 315 emergency.
But
It's just replacement fund. It's not emergency fund, it's replacement fund, right? That's what we established originally,
Yeah.
a replacement fund.
following, after this policy, for your consideration are those, but right now we're just establishing the policy.
Understand.
I
I'm
think
just trying to
what-
get the whole thing, when we put that money in a year ago, it was in the replacement fund. There's just a replacement fund. There's not an emergency replacement fund, there's a replacement fund. The emergency is just a designation of how we get that money appropriated if we haven't appropriated it yet, right? All right, so that's why I was a little confused on the way we said it.
Do you have, if it's confusing, then should we change the wording?
Well, I mean, I have something to mention about the emergency scenario too, but I just wanted to make sure that we're not establishing another emergency fund, we're just
No,
we're
no,
just
no,
keeping the
it's-
minimum in there,
It's just saying that we will
And
always
we
keep at
already
least
have the
this
money
much
in
that
there. We're not
account.
moving it to there. It's already there. Right. Okay.
Other questions? Motion? Second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay. The next one then is authorizing emergency repairs to the security system at the ADF. All those in favor? Question, Mike?
Yeah, so the question is, again, we're doing this as an emergency. I know it's not a real emergency, but that's the only way that we can move the money from what the state's attorney is telling us. I think we need to look at another way to do that, because it isn't an emergency. And Mary, maybe you could explain why we have to do it as emergency, or isn't there any other mechanism?
Because if it is an emergency, it's not legal to do it, right? So my understanding, and I will look to Joel to explain further, my understanding is the security system needs repairs, and because it is so outdated, parts are not available any longer.
Okay, well, let's not talk about that one then.
Okay.
There's three other ones that aren't emergency, but we're calling them emergency.
Well, I don't think we're just calling them emergencies, but maybe.
So one of the things we just recently had is the master plan update, and we said invest into this county office building. We had postponed a project to replace the chiller, which is 24 years old upstairs. I would never want to see that. I mean, it could break down. It's long past its life expectancy. So I need to replace it now before it breaks down, right?
Agreed.
So that's, I take that as an emergency, because I need to go ahead and get that thing replaced right now.
But doesn't our emergency expenditure allow us to not even have to bid? We can just go out and replace it if it's an emergency?
That's if
It does allow that.
And that's what I'm trying to avoid for the
Yeah.
future, us doing 5 emergencies of stuff we know we need to do, but somebody decides we're not going to bid because this emergency we don't have to. So how do we do that, prevent that from happening?
Well, I think that you appropriate the funds.
In the future.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So I would, yes, in the next year's budget, I would say we identify the projects and we approve a budget list of projects in the budget, so we don't come across this situation.
So everybody is comfortable, though, on these next 4 items. We are going to bid on these 4 items, even though they're emergencies.
Yes, because we want to get the best price for the taxpayers.
Right.
Okay. Okay, and I know that Ken has a question, and then Jim.
My question was also on the line with what Mike was saying. If it's an emergency, you normally get the work done. But we have to obtain proposals. Do we not have contracts in place for chiller and boiler replacement and HVAC?
No, we don't.
Would it be feasible to look into establishing them so that we don't have to wait?
You want, like a service agreement ahead of time? Usually not that kind of work. Usually your service agreements are your general maintenance, preventive maintenance, that kind of work.
Okay, Jim, then Jackie.
Okay,
And then Don.
I think we need to be careful here in what we're defining as an emergency. Generally, emergency, it's broken down, and when it needs to be immediately fixed. Emergency isn't, it's old. Got a lot of things that are old around here, me included.
I was going to say that.
So I do have some concern. I don't know, Mary, I get a little confused on why you're saying sometimes we can't spend unrestricted or unassigned cash for a maintenance project. And then there's just this flat-out maintenance budget that necessarily isn't specific always to certain priorities. It can be priorities in a maintenance budget can certainly be moved around. So I caution to say, you can say it's an emergency, but I can say a chicken is a duck too. Doesn't make
No,
But it does, but it does make it a foul.
So, but you know what I'm saying? I have some concern
I
here.
absolutely agree that you need to be very cautious.
Yes,
I
okay.
think in particular, though, the nursing home and the adult detention facility are, because of the consequences, if those were to break down, you have severe issues. You know, the other ones, I think, are a little more, you know, you can look a little bit closer at them.
Okay. Jackie and then Don, and then Julie.
My question, it's kind of a two-parter. One, I'm guessing we've had somebody out there doing maintenance on this machine, and he's indicated to us that at any moment now, it's going to die. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is this something that would, I mean, it lasts 25 years, right? And our bond payments are at least that long. Is this something that we could pay for out of the bond proceeds or not? Because it's a maintenance item, not a brand-new...
We have the money.
Yeah.
We have the maintenance money for this. It's
Right.
just that it's in the fund. It hasn't been allocated in the budget for this year.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to kind of have it part of the budget cycle,
It was.
you know, to come up with a list of projects for your review.
And
We'll do that
if
next
we
year.
didn't vote yes on this, we would have to wait until when to replace it? Would that be October? No, it'd be December, right?
It would be December 1st when you could appropriate the funds, or if they should actually break down, then they could be replaced and staff would come to county board after the fact for a ratification of the expenditure.
And how many people do we house in this building?
Well, you're dealing with 4 different issues here.
Uh-huh.
So you have 2 projects at the adult detention facility, and there are, usually a population is between 700 and 800 inmates. And then Sunny Hill, I believe the population is around 200.
So I didn't realize, I was just looking at adult detention. So we're talking 700 to 800 residents living there,
And yes.
plus staff.
Plus staff.
And they're in an enclosed building where there's no way to open a window. And if it's 100 degrees out, it's going to be warm in there.
I would presume so, yes.
Tell them the place you're going with that is.
We're not disputing that we...
Okay, Don, wait, Don.
Yeah. I too I don't like the terminology because from the public side, I see this as a way that typically emergency repairs are done, sometimes facetiously in order to bypass the bidding process. Okay, and so from the public's perspective, it looks bad. I'd also offer up that I don't believe any of these are really emergencies. If you want to replace a chiller today and you haven't ordered a chiller already, you're not changing it till December 1st anyway. Okay? You're not going to go down to the store, say, send me a chiller tomorrow, and they're going to come in and tear it out and put it in. And it has to be in before May 1st because otherwise we're going to be in the air conditioning season. If the thing does die, there's companies out there that'll bring temporary chillers out, hook them up out in the street, run hoses in and tie it to our piping. Okay, so it's not like the thing would sit there for months without having air conditioning. You know, I see other stuff on here that I don't even understand what it is. It says on one of the things it was VAV box valves need replacing. Is that the hot water reheat valves? Is that the VAV box itself? What is that and why is it an emergency all of a sudden?
That one is not being voted on. That's just projects that we identified for this year, if there was project, but we don't have any funding for those.
Is it, but it would, still it's on our, I'm going to ask because it's on our list anyway, but is it the VAV reheat boxes or reheat valves or is it the boxes themselves?
The boxes themselves.
And is it a single duct system, a dual duct system, or why are they bad? Because I've
Just
seen...
age.
I've seen VAV boxes in buildings that were installed in the early 60s that still work. That's why I'm asking.
We just seeing a lot of them need to be fixed and replaced at River Valley. They're existing from when the building was first installed.
Julie. Obviously, the county has many aging buildings. They're old and need maintenance. Do you have a list of maintenance and operation projects that have been identified and prioritized so that we can?
Yes, ma'am.
avoid. But this is a small list. I mean,
Yes.
The
This is our.
full list is there.
That was our FY19 list, but we, as a improvement of process, we have a list that for a few out years as well.
okay, so
So
that's
not
what,
just
like
this
a
year.
long-term.
Yes, ma'am.
Judy.
Judy,
No,
Judy, then you.
Joel, I was just wondering, as far as for point number one with the security system, and I'm not sure that you know, but I'm sure the guys in the sheriff's department know, this system, if I recall, we had like a big problem a while back where there was a failure on it. They fixed it, and then we didn't replace it, and this is why why that is happening then? And then, Mary, I just really wanted to clarify, and I'm sorry that I maybe got lost in the words, but you said to do this, you have to classify it as an emergency now, and do we have funding for
The
it?
county board has to find that it is an emergency. So
I'm
that's
sorry, who?
The county board has to find that it is an emergency. So they have to make a determination that this is an emergency procurement, to spend money that is not appropriated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Hang on, Jim, the next.
Quite frankly, I think, for me, to give us a positive vote, I need more information. Don brings up a good point. What is the lead time on the chillers? I mean, if you're telling me they're not going to get installed until, September even, I think we might be able to wait. I mean, same thing with all these items. If it is something, the one that I would be most concerned about is any health and safety issues that a breakdown might create here. So I'm focused on the nursing home, right? Older people, I'm one of them, I know. We can't take heat sometimes, we can't take
The cold.
Oh, we take the cold pretty good, we just don't take the heat very well, but my point is because of a health and safety issue, I might be able to convince that we should go forward with the nursing home. If people in this building are going to be a little warm, I'm not as concerned, because I don't consider it as much of an emergency. Especially, as Don pointed out, we can bring in emergency cooling and so forth if we had to, which there would be a cost to. I understand that, but just because something's old, if it's been properly maintained, if you said to me, Joel, the seals are leaking, this isn't, that motor's, the bearings are going in it, but you're not telling me any of that. You're just saying to me it's old. I mean, I think you need to be a little more specific. I find, I have a difficult time supporting this as emergency. Like I say, the security system, here again, can deal with safety. Give me let me know that it doesn't work. I mean, if it's not working and we can't get parts, that's an I really do believe that's an emergency.
What?
If you're going to talk about the security at the jail.
I understand that, Mary. I'm just saying, I think I need more information. Without the information, I don't think I can support this, that's all. So.
To answer your question, though, is, so, example, at your house, say a maintenance guy comes in and says, your furnace is about to go, but it's not gone. But it'll take a lead time to order and install 6 weeks. The same situation is occurring here. In order, exactly what Don mentioned is yes, we could bring an extra cost, bring a chiller in if it breaks down and tie that in. That's extra cost on top of the fix that we're going to do. But from a lead time, I would not even do the chiller in the summer either, because that's when they need it. So in order to order it, install it, get it scheduled, get all the contracts done, we have to approve now so that we can install in the fall when it gets cool.
I disagree with you. I'm going to ask Mary. We do many things that we approve in one budget year and appropriate the next budget year. Doesn't mean you can't go forward. It just means it won't be paid for until the next budget year.
Correct.
So And we do that, pretty regularly, actually, because of lead times, because of cost, and so forth. So, in which case, you can go forward with this as a regular bid-out job, not an emergency, but the understanding is it'll be paid for in the next budget, especially if there's a considerable lead time. So, I'm just pointing that out. I mean, you can start the process a little later, maybe. Here again, Joel, to get to the thing, is like, first off, at home, I don't deal with public funds, I deal with my funds, right? I mean, we have, in your home, you go by your rules. It's like, it's old, I'll replace it, it's 10 years old. Here, there's strict guidelines, especially for these emergencies. And my concern is that we're pushing that envelope perhaps, and not really following the intent of what an emergency is. That's all. So that's why I may have a difficult time supporting this without additional information convincing me that it's a real emergency. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So the problem is the emergency designation. We've gone through this before, we went through it last year. These projects need to be done this year, or at least started this year, the bidding process. We know they need to be done. They are at the end of their useful life. We know we need to replace them. The unfortunate thing is, all the ducks weren't in the row at budgeting time, so we weren't able to budget out of that fund to get this money to be able to start these projects this year. So I don't disagree with all the things that Joel's saying we need to replace this year. We do need to replace them. And does that mean we're putting them physically in? Maybe not, because by the time you bid and get the guys lined up to put it in, we may not. We may be into next year's budget year, timing-wise. The issue is using that emergency designation, and that's why I was asking if there's any other way to do this, because then it's confusing people. Is it an emergency? Well, not in the true sense that the emergency rule is established, but we need to replace those this year, or start the process. So if there's no other way we can do it.
And maybe there is. Mary, can we change it to, say, just authorizing repairs? Do we have to say emergency in order to get the money out?
Yes. Under state statute, it has to be a bona fide emergency to spend unappropriated funds.
Okay.
If we don't spend it this year.
So that's the process, okay.
After you've passed it.
Okay.
So any of these,
Okay.
what's the earliest we'd get any of these three things if we order them now? If we get our bids back in 30 days and start ordering then?
The ADF security, we could get fast. The overhaul, we could get pretty fast as well. It's the boiler and the chiller upstairs would be a little bit longer lead item. 2 out of the 4.
What
Right.
what can we do about starting the bid process without having the emergency designation? Can we move forward with getting bids on replacements for the other 2 items that aren't true, fall in the...
You could probably do the bid. I don't know that you would do the bid right now. What you would do is wait a couple of months, send the bid out with the indication that we would anticipate installing them sometime in the late fall or early winter, depending on how we structured payment. Because payment could not occur until after December 1st.
Then you could he order them based on that? If he bid it out and got the stuff back, could he order it? So we're eating up some of the lead time so that it does arrive in the fall, late
Depends
fall?
on the payment terms that the vendor would allow.
She is. Okay. Did you change your mind? Hang on. She's not looking.
Just take the funds out?
No.
A different capital
No.
account?
No, it's not budgeted.
It's not budgeted.
That's the issue right there.
That's why they're putting an emergency designation, because then we can. But you can't.
Transfer any money?
No. Not if it's not
That's the
budgeted.
issue. That is the process. Question, Jackie? Another one?
Well, it was kind of along the same lines, put out the requests for a contract or a proposal and let them know that this would be installed in the fall, or, and your payment would not come until December, and make that a part of the bid process. And they either want the work or they don't.
You can manage that piece. Yeah.
And if it becomes an emergency, well, then you got all the legwork done, and they get to do it early.
But if he starts it in December, does that push us back
To next May, yeah, if he doesn't start till December.
Well, what Don's saying, so in other words, if he starts in December after it's fully budgeted.
No, you could start.
But I'm saying start now.
You could start.
Which would be
and say
exactly what's here.
August
It's
or
just
July,
for
and
this-
just say,
using that
you know,
word.
We're not installing and paying until
You're not paying-
December 1.
Which is what we would do anyway.
It's a job
90
to
days is
come.
not something that's out of line.
Okay, Brooks?
Sounds like we are emergency proactive. The wheels are not getting ready to fall off the chiller right now, but you want to be ahead of the game. The only process we have with Count 315 is this process to get that done. So it sounds like to me, it is the only process that we have in place right now, Mary, to do what we're trying to do right now.
Well, I think we've talked about two possible processes. One is if it's a bona fide emergency, and at least two of these, I think you could look at if the proper documentation came forward as bona fide emergencies, because the consequences would
But
be
you've already
so
talked
severe.
about, Ray and Don, everybody already brought up other ways and other process. Sounds
Right.
like to me, you don't like the word emergency, but that's what we have in place. That's what we have, the only process that we
You would have
have.
to make a finding that it's a bona fide emergency.
Okay.
Okay.
So the option for us then, Mary, would be for the two that are for the ADF, designate them as such and go ahead with them. For the other two, we possibly can bring that resolution back a little bit later, maybe next month or so, so that we hit the timetable that we need, but we don't have to designate them as emergencies.
Correct. You could pass them as a non-emergency right now and give them the authority to go forward with the bidding process.
Okay. Do we need to have a new resolution to do that, or can we do that as it
You could amend
stands
the resolution to remove the word emergency if you wanted.
on those that,
Yeah.
those where we would do that? Okay.
No, each
So-
one would have.
So then for the one that is for number 9, which is the ADF, we want to leave as it stands, is that correct? Question on that, Don?
Well, I'm not comfortable, is this going to, the way that this was proposed, would this be a design build? Because we're going to take and replace a chiller that's 20 years old or 30 years old, or a boiler that's 20 years old, 30 years old, and replace it without hiring a mechanical engineer or PE to look at it and say, a lot of things have changed. You know, the delta T across the coil on a chiller, on a chilled water coil in an air handling unit isn't the same today as it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. You know, they try and get a bigger delta T so they can load the chiller up more, so that it's more efficient. And, I mean, if we're going to do a direct replacement, or are we going to have an engineer actually design what we need to put in? Because, I mean, if we're doing that, the process is bigger. If we're going to stick something in that's only more efficient because of the efficiency of the type of chiller it is, that's not maybe all the efficiency that we should be getting for the bang for our buck, right?
And you're speaking just to the number 12, right?
Yeah,
9 and
I think-
12,
I
Don?
think-
I think they should be reviewed by a mechanical engineer.
For 9 and 12.
So, 9 is security, I think, but I
And
think you were
12 is
talking about number
also at
12.
the ADF.
He's talking to
At number 12, we just did the other
10 is
two,
the
we
chiller and,
overhauled those
is not
2
a-
years ago, so we knew this
here.
one is in need as well, but we just didn't have the funding 2 years ago, and so we needed, it's an overhaul, it's not, you're not ripping it out and putting a new one in,
Okay.
yes. so.
Okay, we have another question. Judy?
So in looking at the master project list that you put together, and my understanding of previous situations with the security system, that is listed, you have it listed as safety, health, high rating on that, and also as security, where the other things are mechanical and things like that, which I understand what Don is saying about having a decision made on somebody coming in who's an engineer looking at it. I wonder if we just amend it to replace and upgrade the security system as at the ADF is the one thing that we pass as an emergency today.
Security as well.
With security,
Security of the children.
Yeah, that's what we said, number 9.
Then the other two will amend to not be.
Take out the emergency.
Start the process.
So when you say the other two, do you mean 10 and 11?
Yes, yes.
So, okay, we need to do them one at a time. So for number 9,
I will make a motion to approve the authorization of an emergency repair,
Back up to,
security system, and
wait a minute. We need
hold
a-
on a minute.
We need a vote on the policy itself. We kind of got ahead. Okay, we have a motion and a second, but I don't know.
On number 8.
On number 8, on the policy, I thought.
Okay, we may not have. So all those in favor of number 8, that was establishing the minimum balance in our repair fund.
Aye. Okay.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, then number 9, this is number 9 only, we're going to leave that saying emergent because that is for the ADF, and we would go forward as it is.
We have a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, number 10 then was the HVAC and the chillers at this building.
Motion to remove changes.
And I heard the second.
Now, are we removing the whole item, or just the?
Are you, yep, that's a good question. The whole item or the word emergency? What are you doing?
He doesn't,
Yeah.
we don't need anything? Okay.
And then we'll
Okay.
start that process, like everybody's mentioned,
Okay.
and we'll get
Okay.
a tight bid, and then if it breaks down, then we'll be back, but otherwise.
Okay, so all those in favor?
We need a second.
Second.
We had the second? Okay. Any opposed? Okay, then for 11, that is the boiler at Sunny Hill. Jim?
Okay.
It's a repair. It's not a replacement, right? It's emergency repair.
No, it's the original boiler there, so it is a replacement.
Well, I'm just saying, because it says on mine, authorizing emergency repairs
Repair, we'll change it to
to the
replace.
boiler.
We can change that to replacement.
I think we should probably say replacement. Repairs,
Good
in the
catch.
case like here, you can go down and fix it, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
It'll be replacement.
okay.
Question, Jackie?
And my question would go to Don Moran's comment. Is this something that we need to have an engineer in to look at before we buy a new one? And make sure that the make, model, type, whatever fits the building and the needs?
Yeah, we'll do that homework.
Okay.
And by
Any
the
other
way,
questions?
got one other thing. So 9 should say the same thing as a replacement.
Yes.
Yeah, we can make that correction.
Change it.
Okay.
Need a second.
Number 11, we have the motion and a second?
Yes.
Do you have both? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Then 12, that is at the ADF again, and that is repairs to the chiller.
Motion to send that back to them, to reword it, send it back out, remove it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it,
That's what the motion is to take it off.
Okay.
we'll do it like number 10.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Okay, now we're at 13, approval of IDOT's joint agreement for improvements on the Manhattan Arsenal Road.
Jeff is
Where does he
we're
do?
amending this one that was originally approved at Public Works. I don't know if you want him to explain it.
Okay. There is, well, let's just see. There is an amendment to this. Did everybody see that write-up? Are there questions about that? I see him there. Are there questions for Jeff? If not, we'll go forward.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Jeff. Okay. This is an intergovernmental agreement with Frankfurt for the Fire Protection District. All in favor? Any opposed? IGA with Mokina Fire Protection District.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? IGA with East Joliet Fire Protection District.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Authorizing the county executive to execute a lease agreement with Silver Cross for the radio communications. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, number 18 is amending the CDBG Home Advisory Board bylaws. What that amounts to is, by the bylaws, the speaker, the minority leader, and the majority leader are automatically a part of that board. So this is just amending so to put the correct names in. Any opposed?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Replacement hires for the Department of Transportation, that's a road maintainer. All in favor? Any opposed? For 20, there is, that's a replacement hire for the maintenance department. We'll bring the name forward a little bit later. It'll be a different name because the one that we had thought we were going to have is not going to work out. We can go forward with the motion though, right? So we'll take the motion and we'll give you the exact name. So, is there a motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Do we have any proclamations?
Yeah, we have two of them, recognizing Wilmington High School on their cheerleading state championship and recognizing National Fair Housing Month. I believe the cheerleaders will be in, so that one will be presented at the podium, and the other one will just be read into the record.
Is that Don and Joe on that one?
Yep, yep. And
Okay.
then we'll have someone do the fair housing.
Okay. Appointments by the county executive?
They're attached.
All in favor? Okay. I don't have any other new business. There is let's do the committees, we'll move the committees forward.
Well, okay, because this is where we go through each committee if anybody has any questions.
Okay. I was running fast. I was going to just move the committees as they stood. Were there questions on the committee assignments?
County board agenda.
May I just add thanks again to Tyler for conducting that committee in my absence as well. I owe you 2 lunches now, man. I got my teeth.
Okay.
I got my teeth.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is on the draft agenda. Any changes at all? We accept that. Second? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, I'm just going to tell you now before you run out the door, we do need an executive committee today for the session, rather, for the purpose of labor negotiations. So, is there any public comment? No public comment. Okay. I have no report.
Judy has a comment.
Go ahead.
So this is just for everybody. At our legislative committee meeting the other day, we discussed House Bill 3301, which is being moved forward by Natalie Manley. And Jackie Trenier, who's the chair of legislative, suggested everybody contact Natalie Manley. So I just wanted to make sure that if you'd like to do that contact, I was going to provide her phone number for you.
Why don't you put that, if you would send that, let her send it out.
Okay, I'll
by
send it
email.
out. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Was there anything else? Okay. Then we need the motion for executive session for labor negotiations.
Motion.
Okay. The roll, please.